What began as quiet tension has erupted into something far more dangerous. The standoff between Prince Edward and Sophie and the King and Camilla is no longer contained, it is pulling the royal family apart. At the centre, Bagshot Park, and a tiara once given by Queen Elizabeth II to the daughter-in-law she trusted most. Then came the move that changed everything, Camilla's unexpected push. For Edward, it crossed a line. He didn't argue. He acted. Without warning, top lawyers were brought in. Documents were placed on the table inside palace walls, cold, precise, undeniable. What they revealed was something the monarchy had every reason to keep hidden. Edward wasn't defending a claim. He was proving a right, something already his, something the king believed could be taken back. On March 25, 2026, elite property lawyers stepped into the Crown Estate offices and laid down a legal file years in the making. Inside, every agreement, every private transfer, every piece of evidence quietly secured over time. A defense constructed in silence, built not for show, but for this exact moment. And it raised one question sharp enough to cut through everything: how did the youngest son come to hold what the king now wants returned? The answer traces back to the final decisions of Queen Elizabeth II before her death in September 2022. She understood the fractures forming. She saw the pressure building, around money, titles, control. So she acted while she still could. Her intentions were set in place, deliberate and clear. The Dukedom of Edinburgh was not left to chance. Nothing was. Even as subtle moments hinted at status, like a prince quietly mocked for carrying tea bags in a modest role, what truly mattered had already been decided, locked in long before the conflict ever surfaced. Queen Elizabeth II had already decided. Prince Edward was her choice, deliberate, calculated, final. That decision alone explains the outrage. The title that defined Prince Philip for more than 70 years, his identity, his purpose, was never meant to drift. It was secured for the one son who remained steady, untouched by scandal, never a threat to the crown. In April 2023, King Charles III honored that promise, granting Edward the title. But that was only half the story. The other half had weight. Presence. Power. Bagshot Park. Not just a residence, but the seat of the dukedom itself. A vast Tudor Gothic estate, 120 rooms set across 51 acres in Windsor Great Park. In her final years, Elizabeth signed a statement of intent, quietly binding that estate to the title of Edinburgh. Philip saw it, witnessed it, near the end of his life. Because he understood what was at stake. Without the estate, the title could be hollowed out, reduced to a name without substance. Elizabeth made sure that it could not happen. Title and land were meant to remain inseparable. That was her design. But after her passing, something shifted. A new philosophy took hold. For years, Charles carried a belief, simple, but dangerous in its reach, that as king, the final authority over royal property, titles, and structure rested with him. Modernization, in his view, meant reassessment. Restructuring. Even reversal, if necessary. By 2026, that belief was no longer theoretical. Lease reviews began. Financial scrutiny intensified. Quiet pressure built behind closed doors, pushing for adjustments, for reductions, for change. And Bagshot Park moved into focus. Then came the fracture. Edward became Duke in 2023, after decades of watching his father carry that legacy. It was finally his. Yet within just 3 years, the very institution that granted it appeared to pull at its foundation, separating the home from the title. That is where the real conflict lies. Because without Bagshot Park, the dukedom loses its core. A title without land. A name without ground. Power, stripped to form, and nothing more. The reality regarding Edward's estate purchase makes this worse. Bagshot Park was in poor condition when offered to him. After the army chaplains left in 1996, the structure was run down and disregarded. The Crown Estate had no interest in keeping it as a royal palace. They planned to turn it into a hotel or meeting facility. The value was low at the time. Edward received it on a March 1998 lease. The stipulations were clear: £5,000 annually for 50 years. That modest rent was burdensome. His job was to fix the place immediately. And he did. He invested £1.36 million of his own money, obtained before becoming a prince. Repairs cost £2.98 million. Edward was financially burdened, although the Crown estate covered part of it. His annual rent rose to £90,000 after the work. National Audit Office validated market value. His brother Andrew never did. Andrew resided at Royal Lodge for years without paying market rate. National Audit Office reported it. A brother paid his way by following the rules. Another did not. He anticipated Miss Havisham's mansion from it. Restoration House is its current name. Now the institution that tolerated that double standard was focusing on the brother who did everything right. Edward went further. He extended the lease to 150 years for £5 million through Eclipse Nominees Limited in 2007. Long-term planning. He may sell the lease and pocket the profit under his arrangement. Security was built. His control grew. Now consider 2026. Its value is roughly £30 million. The Crown estate can sell or lease it for tremendous profits if it recovers it. Edward was pressured to give it up for more than renovation. The financial motive was obvious. £30 million. Philip's function becomes clear here. He anticipated this. He witnessed and recorded that letter of intent. Over 70 years, Philip observed the monarchy behind closed doors. He had seen the institution quietly and effectively attack those it no longer needed. No way would that happen to his younger son. He signed a document to prevent that as he died. He knew without it, Edward would be vulnerable to pressure. Edward was ready on March 25, 2026. The legal file supplied that morning had 3 solid points. His original lease reflecting financial investment. The document signed by Elizabeth and witnessed by Philip tying Bagshot Park to the dukedom for life. And 20 years of records showing he kept the land profitable for the Crown. Despite that, one thing made this situation risky. Charles runs things. He manages the structure that makes monarchy life tough without breaching the rules. Although the proof was presented, nothing was guaranteed. Fighting had begun. As those documents were opened and read in Buckingham Palace, one thing became painfully evident. Elizabeth chose. Edward constructed his defense. Now the king had to decide if that decision mattered. Wedding gift that triggered war. That decision left Buckingham Palace quickly. It moved quickly without stopping at land or titles. It pursued something more personal. Before the lawyers arrived with that document in 2026, a palace official arrived with a clipboard and a hushed order. The Queen Camilla office sent the visitor. A jewelry audit, routine assessment, and national heritage check were described. It was framed that way. It signified something basic. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh's 25-year-old jewelry was counted and questioned. The anthem tiara was key to the audit. The vault item was not random. Queen Elizabeth II ordered it for Sophie's 1999 wedding. For honeysuckle-shaped antique elements from Queen Victoria's collection were used. Sophie wore no other tiara for nearly 20 years. That detail counts more than people assume. Sophie never had free access to the large state tiaras like other senior royals. Family members understood. The message was obvious but not loud. She was not central. She remained low and wore the him tiara as her crown. Without that, she has nothing. Camilla's legal argument conveyed a harsh message. The tiara may be crown property because it employed Queen Victoria's gold and stones. That meant it should be kept in the royal vault and used exclusively for official purposes. The message was plain. Sophie would lose her wedding tiara. She must request permission to wear it. That crossed a line and was dangerous because if that argument stands, it goes beyond one tiara. It lets you retrieve dozens of Elizabeth's personal treasures from her 70-year reign. It continues past Sophie. It affects the whole family and Camilla. Royal sources supply her jewelry. That rule traps her collection too. Edward's legal team immediately recognized it, but this case was darker. The public had seen this move before. Princess Diana's 1981 wedding diamond and emerald necklace from the Queen Mother was returned to the royal vault after her death. That should have ended it. Camilla removed it, recreated it as a brooch, and wore it publicly. No one remained silent. Reaction was swift and fierce. "Has she no shame?" one voice said. "Why can this woman handle Diana's stuff?" another requested. That recollection never left, and now the same process was repeated, using the institution to excuse a highly personal act. Edward spoke out this time. His lawyers filed a paper that ended the dispute. Elizabeth signed the gift deed in 1999. It declared that the anthem tiara was a private wedding present, not a public loan, shared asset, or trust. It belonged to Sophie. Sophie received the Royal Victorian Order from Elizabeth. That's no ordinary honor. The king gives it directly for direct service. So see the big picture. Elizabeth awarded her a wedding tiara and signed a formal paperwork proving ownership. Queens directly state who they trust. Camilla's audit went beyond jewelry. It was a challenge to that record. Edward had gone further than expected. His 1999 collaboration with royal jewelers created a matching set of black and white pearl necklace and earrings for Sophie to match the anthem tiara. Edward owned the design rights, but the royal funded the materials. That detail altered everything. His lawyers claimed the tiara and pearl set were the same creative item designed by Edward. That unit must be broken to remove the tiara. He gains further legal protection. Behind it all was something personal. Sophie donned that tiara at her wedding. In October 2019, she spoke at a Buckingham Palace reception honoring the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Trust. During that speech, she turned to Queen Elizabeth II and remarked, "Mama, it was unplanned." It escaped in a room where words are normally tightly controlled. And it showed her view of her. Her mother signed that deed. Another woman was trying to take it. On March 25, 2026, the situation broke down in the afternoon. Edward's lawyers warned directly. If the tiara claim wasn't dropped by the end of the day, they'd expose Elizabeth's private letters stating she wanted Sophie to keep all her valuables. Those letters continued, according to sources. They mentioned Camilla. The threat was explosive because revealing those letters would do more than defend Sophie. It would expose the past. Elizabeth's frigid detachment from Camilla, the years it took her to accept her, and the tension that never went away. Charles spent years transforming Camilla from an unpopular character into queen consort. Those letters might ruin that job in a day. This was no longer about a tiara. Control, reputation, legacy. Sophie kept the anthem tiara as offered by March 25 evening. Edward acted following the audit and legal pressure. He kept the tiara in a high-security private safe under his security team. It would not be taken, reviewed, or reclassified without a battle. Edward drew his line. Legal warnings were given. The palace was cornered. Pressure on paper would never finish this. The following step was illegal. It was personal. Princess Anne was about to enter. The Princess Royal joins the fight moved from offices to a Buckingham Palace private chamber in the afternoon of March 25, 2026. When Princess Anne entered, everything changed. No small talk, nice opening, or softening was used. She was direct. To understand why that time was so important, look at what changed in the years prior. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, and Anne were not always close. Anyone watching in 2021 could tell and kept her distance. She always was. Her warmth is genuine. She doesn't reveal it unless she feels it. April 2021 arrived. Prince Philip died. The family structure changed after such loss. Anne and Sophie helped Queen Elizabeth II in her final year. They met virtually daily. Time erased their distance. The difference was evident at Elizabeth's September 2022 funeral. Sophie gently touched Anne's back while waiting for the casket. The gesture was small yet genuine. It demonstrated faith. That moment mattered more than expected. By March 2026, that quiet link was powerful, protective, and ready to act. Princess Anne was not Edward's sister when she met King Charles III. Her role was to defend their mother's decision. She made that plain instantly. She warned Charles that if he allowed intimate presence from their mother to be questioned, categorized, or taken back, a monarch's promise would mean nothing. She said the line that stopped the room. If our mother's lease or gift deed signature is worthless now, yours will be far less tomorrow. Anne assaulted the foundation. Kingly authority only functions if people trust his signature. He doesn't assume that trust from every ruler before him. Break that and everything weakens. She had also reviewed Bagshot Park paperwork. She knew what Prince Edward paid, signed, and the Crown estate accepted. That agreement's core is basic. Edward has a long-term legal lease on the property secured by his own money and binding terms that allow him to live and control it. And stated her position. Edward bought that house. The Crown estate accepted his money that way. That deal stands. No argument remains. And did not separate the tiara and house problems. She identified them as the same struggle. Both were gifts from Queen Elizabeth II and verified by documentation. Both were now challenged with the same reasoning. And stated it clearly. If they get one, they can get the other. Nothing Elizabeth signed is secure once that door is open. There was a heartbreaking Sophie twist. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, lost her mother young. Through the years, Queen Elizabeth II became her closest mother. And knew just what that meant. Her father died in 2021 and her mother in 2022. She knows what it means when those relationships are gone and only their belongings remain. When the tiara and home were attacked, and saw no paperwork. She saw someone get something from someone who had lost enough. Another layer made this difficult. And had seen this. Close to Princess Diana. She watched Diana's position deteriorate. Her Royal Highness removal, loneliness, support loss. She watched a woman sacrifice everything for the monarchy and be rejected. Different individual, same pattern, pressure was building again. This time, she wouldn't be quiet. Then she continued. She warned Charles that she would act publicly if Camilla did not stop. She would audit the Queen's household, including expenses, staffing, and Camilla-related allocations. That threat hit deeply because Anne is the only family member who can prove it. Long-time discipline and financial management are her hallmarks. People listen when she promises she'll reveal something. She continued. She mentioned Edward's kids. James, Earl of Wessex, and Lady Louise Windsor have been quietly pressured to become private earlier than intended, removing them from their royal title and leaving them without security or support. And quickly stopped it. She stated that their parents and children make this decision, not Queen Camilla. This was important to her. And chose privacy for her children, Peter and Zara, years ago. It was her choice. Nobody coerced it. Her new view was different. This was pressure she wouldn't tolerate. The situation altered completely after the meeting. Charles faced two awful choices. He may support Camilla and undermine his authority. He might retreat and acknowledge that some lines are uncrossable. No exit was clean. One thing was evident as Anne left that room. Not simply Edward's fight anymore. It directly challenged the king. Following a thorough dossier assessment, King Charles III legal team reached a conclusion. Prince Edward was invincible. Every part held. No royal order could overrule it. Charles lost that fight. He held a seemingly obvious belief for years. As king, he believed he still controlled the dukedom after granting it in April 2023. Title, property, and structure. His lawyers wrote that he did not. Edward received something permanent from his mother. Legal inheritance. He could not reach it. He was shaken by that alone. Another part of the file hit harder. Philip attested letter. Charles knew his mother always shielded Edward and Sophie. He understood her loyalty. He did not know that Philip, in his later years, had written to support that protection. That detail altered everything. Because Elizabeth wasn't alone in this decision. It was both. Despite this, the pressure continued. Queen Camilla persisted. Her position was clear. She wanted royal family rules to be uniform. That meant evaluating private gifts like the tiara, tightening supervision over Bagshot Park, and ensuring no one broke the palace's rules. She sought central control over everything. The actual difficulty started there. Because Edward and Sophie operated outside that structure. Their home was secure. They had demonstrated they could function without palace control. That made them hard to control. Everything seemed to be an attempt to control them by taking away their independence. The palace situation broke down as a result. Staff picked sides. Sophie's longtime co-workers began quietly supporting the Edinburgh family. Meanwhile, resentment of the Queen's administration grew. Where sides are, leaks occur. Private conversations could now spill over. All documents, notes, and internal reasoning were closer to exposure than ever. The palace, notorious for control, was divided inside. One insider said the king is being led into a minefield. His wife's demands and his mother's final decisions are forcing him to choose. Every consequence hurts the family. Charles is in the situation. The situation is worse outside the palace. In a period of rising costs and financial pressure, a monarch trying to steal his brother's home, which he paid to rebuild, would be unpopular. It was unforgivable. Charles reportedly left the legal system. His note was confidential. A handwritten note was sent to Bagshot Park requesting a family gathering. Someone who knew the law was against him did it. The reply clarified the situation. Edward declined to meet without his legal team. That changed everything. This was no longer family talk. Edward no longer tried to keep harmony as the younger sibling. He pretended to understand the risks and refused to give anything up without protection. Once drawn, that line is permanent. Prince Charles waited decades to become king. He controlled a smaller monarchy than ever. Something broke within that smaller structure. Now there was mistrust, discord, and pressure. He could no longer control whether his mother's final judgments would stand in Surrey, where he could not legally touch the house. Late on March 25, 2026, the Master of the Jewel House wrote Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, an official note about their defeat. Short and simple, without emotion or explanation. The anthem tiara would be hers alone. The end. Nobody apologized for the audit or acknowledged the pressure. Bagshot Park review was discreetly halted. The official text acknowledged the Edinburgh household's estate maintenance. No one in the palace misinterpreted what happened. The crown retreated. Everything Prince Edward owned was confirmed. The title, residence, and tiara were all where Queen Elizabeth II had placed them. The family's equilibrium changed with that confirmation. This was no longer a controversy. The record was set. Long after everyone is gone, that note will be archived. The meaning will be evident when read later. Claim made. The attempt failed. The institution has to admit it in writing. It did not bring peace. Its cost is irreparable. Charles III's relationship with Edward has changed dramatically. This is no longer personal. Controlled, official, duty-bound. In the future, the people will see lies. Will see togetherness. Expect appearances. At events, two brothers will stand together. Everyone will know the truth within the family. They will know one used the law to defend himself from the other. That persists. It changed the monarchy's structure. Two power centers exist presently. Queen Camilla and Charles promote a simpler monarchy at Buckingham Palace. Another group has formed outside that core. Princess Anne, Edward, and Sophie, quietly supported by Prince William and Catherine. They are quiet, but they are safeguarding what was constructed and refusing to change it. Now that division is corrected. James, Earl of Wessex, and Lady Louise Windsor will never forget this. They saw their father battle quietly. He did it with paperwork, preparation, and control. The system retreated under his pressure. James will one day be the Duke of Edinburgh, like his grandfather for nearly 70 years. However, he will interpret it differently. He will realize the giving institution may take back. That understanding alters everything. That doesn't build loyalty. This causes caution. It will shape his lifelong position in that system. Prince Charles has his monarchy. His structure. Authority is his. The sibling who stood silently for decades, paid his own way, and begged for nothing except to keep what was handed to him no longer trusts him. That loss isn't visible now, but it will be. That will stay after the documents are filed and the hush settles.